Welcome to session 4 of our training. We are going to be looking at data selection and filtering, where we will look at how to index and slice all sorts of data sets. So the first thing I want to do is, I'll say setting of the data set, actually the data frame, for example. So we are going to have a lot of examples. First of all, I have to set up the data frame. But before anything, I need to first of all import Panda. And how do we go about doing that? Import then the URL for the Titanic. We are going to be using the Titanic data. This is the link, so it's important you type it, or when I post the book, when I post the file, you should take a look at it. So I've put it between these quotes, and that's it. It's a GitHub data set. You can see it ends, it's a CSV file. So when we try to read it, we'll take into account it's a .csv file. Okay, let's go for it. So I'll just say df Titanic. Given that it's data, it's public data for the Titanic, I'll use pd read. So it's a CSV file, so we will be using this one, and I'll just type csv-url. So I could have copied this and pasted it all the way inside, but this makes it a bit more elegant to work with. And if it's able to read the file, then we want to take a look at the first 5 rows. So I'll just say df .head, and hold on, it's df Titanic. Okay, there we go. So we've been able to read the file, but I think it's too long, so I'll just reduce it. I'll just make it 2. And there we are. Okay, here we go. The next thing we want to do is we want to take a look how to select a column. Selecting a column. So if you have a data frame and you want to select a column, how do you go about doing that? I'll call this dn name. I want to select the column name. So this is name. I want to select this column and leave all the other ones. So I will take my df Titanic data set, and from that data set I will simply use the square bracket and I'll put name. Now it's important you make sure it's exactly what you have here. If it's not exactly what you have, you may have an error. So I'll show you how to be able to look at all the column names you have. So that's it. It means we will extract just this column, put it inside this variable, and then we are able to look at the first 5 rows of that just by doing .head. So let's go, and there you go. So you can see you have the first 5 of that particular column that we've selected. And we can as well look at the data type. It's true we have it here, but we could have as well said df name. Actually, it's data type, then we have df name. So let's just type. Now you can see this is actually a series because we only have one column. So df name, run it. And it's giving us all the blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay, let's continue exploring. So now I'll say df name age. Now, if you take a look here, we have H. So I'll just go to my DF, Titanic. Now, I don't need to use the square brackets in this case. If I want, I'll just use .h. Let's try that and see how it goes. So dfh dot head, and there we go. So we have the data set that you had it here under H. Okay, let's move on, and actually then let me show you an attribute. If you doubt what's the correct spelling for all of these things, just look the names of all the headers. You can use column. So for that, I'll say gf Titanic dot columns. It's not a method, it's an attribute, so I'll just leave it like that, run it, and here you have the correct spelling so that you really don't make a mistake when you go about doing that, else you may end up having issues with capitalized letters and so on and so forth. So now let's take a look at something else where we select multiple columns. So in this case now, I'm just going to call it df2. I don't like typing all those complicated names. So we'll do df Titanic. And now this is very important. When you want to say, if it's just one column, you use one square brackets. If you have more than one, you have to use two. This is very important, else you end up having issues. So the first thing, I want to take name. I want to take H. And just by looking at this, you can see the correct spelling. You can choose any one you want. I'll take survive. And what do we have here? gf2.head. To see the first 5 for each. And there we go. We have name, age, survive. Now it's important for you to know that the order that you put here will determine the order you are going to have here. So let me just show another rapid example. This time I'll say df3 Titanic. So I'll start with fair, because if you take a look here, you see we have fair. Name. So you can see how it's organized: fair, name, age, survive, just as it is there. So if you flip the arrangement, it's going to flip. So it's really, you arrange it the way you want. So if you don't like the way your data frame is, you can just play with such things. Now we want to see how to select rows. So I'll say selecting rows. This is where we bring in the whole concept of slicing. And here we will say indexing. Okay, so let's go for it. So if we want to look at row 1, for example, now it's important to note that it starts with 0. So row 1 will be 0 definitely. So how do we go about that? gf Titanic, And this time we will be using iLock. So if you want to make your selection, actually it's a square bracket. If you want to do your selection by you are, well, using the index, you are going to use iLock. So if we want the first, I'll put 0 there, and then we will just print 1. And there we go. You can see that for 1, you have all of this, the name of the columns, and you have the variable. So for 1, you can see the name of the person and all the other things. Now let's just put a hashtag here so that you can see the difference. Hashtag means we comment it out. Let's just say 1, and when I run it, you can see how it looks. It just takes a bit more space. So I will use print for these ones so that it doesn't take too much space. Now let's say we are interested in row 4. So 4, it means we'll take DF Titanic. We will go to iLock and we will take, well, it should be that. So if you are looking for row 4, it should be that. If it's row 5, you'll put 4 there. And if we do print, then we end up with someone else. Now we are going to see how we can go about and select multiple rows. So let's say we want to take rows. I'll just say malt. It's always DF Titanic. And this time we want to put multiple things, so we'll still go with iLock. However, now we will use more than once. It's a bit similar to what we did when we were playing around with those, with choosing the columns. So let's say I want row 2, I want row 4, and I want maybe row 8. Then for such a case, I just need to print rows malt, and let's see, there we go. Now we are going to take a look at how to use a slice. Now let's just say we want to select the first 3 rows. So rows, I'll say first, rows. So we have DF Titanic dot. So this time we will not be using the same approach we've been using so far. Of course, we will still use iLock. However, we will just use one of that, and we will say go from 0 to 3. It means it's going to take, let me just put a comment here. It means it's going to select 0, 1, 2, because it never touches the final one. Okay, so now we can have print. First 3 rows we can, and that's it. That's what has been selected. So let's do the next one. We basically want to do something similar, but without having the beginning place there. So for example, let's say we want to, I'll just be calling them row 1 and so on. I really don't feel like to be creative with crazy names. So here we'll have DF Titanic. dot ilog. And this time, let's say we just use double brackets and we use 3 there. Okay. And let me do print 01. Okay. Print not prompt 012. So you see it has done basically something similar to what was done, but it understands what was implied. Now, what if we want to take a look at numbers starting from somewhere till the end? So let's first do df Titanic dot shape to even look at how large the data set is. So we can see that we have this number of rows, we have 12 columns, 8 blah blah blah. So it means we can actually do something like this. I'll say row to n. So we have df Titanic dot, I'll say ilog. However, this time I'll say maybe 888, and I'll do that. So if you want, you can count everything starting from there till the end and see the number of rows which are left. And then I'll say print O to n, run it, and you can see that these are the rows which are left. Okay, awesome. Now, if you take a look, you may wonder, why do we have a discrepancy between this? It's because the index always starts at 0. So here you have the IDs. The IDs are really the numbers, because if you come here, you'll see that the ID is 1, 2, and so on. However, you can see that the index starts at 0. That's why here you are having 91 and here it's 90. It's because the index starts at 0. Now, what happens if you are just interested in the last row? It has a really easy way of doing that. So I'll just call this last row. You use -1. That's all. So if we do print, so you see we have just one. It's the last one. It's the ID, blah, blah, blah. Now, an interesting question will be, what if I do -2? Well, it doesn't cost you anything to just try it. And you will see that it's now giving you 890, not 891. And if you do -4, you can see that it keeps moving it to the left.